This week's topic came from Donna, who wanted to know how to shift from feeling lonely to finding connection. Yesterday, I talked about when I was feeling lonely. Today, I'll talk about how I shifted from feeling lonely to finding connection. Tomorrow, I'm going to focus on connection. Thursday, we'll meditate. And Friday, for the Frittity or the Friday Ditty, I'll get a little more poetic and nerdy and make sense of the journey. So if you have a question like Donna did, comment below or DM me on Instagram. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself. The question I'm starting with today is, when is a time you navigated loneliness and found connection? So to me, this is kind of a funny story. So there was this group that I would go to, and somehow in my head, I decided that nobody wanted me there, that I was lonely. Like, I think what it was is that, for whatever reason, people weren't reaching out and saying hi to me. And I just decided that I was alone, and I kept going to the group, and I think mostly because it's recently, I was recognizing that this was probably a story I was telling myself, and that, I could find connection, and it was also like what I was noticing. So I think like even yesterday in yesterday's show or episode, what I was noticing around me, like I even spoke about how people were coming over and helping and doing things, and yet I still felt lonely. And, I think sometimes I can be around people and still feel lonely, especially when the stories I'm telling myself about how they're behaving, somehow I decide that they're about me. And that's not always true. And I am not trying to diminish loneliness at all, because I was miserable. And in fact, I remember that I believe that I call it like a disconnection infection. I kind of started a disconnection infection. And what happened was because the dogs are just busy talking, because I was so busy and determined with the loneliness. Hey, Cookie. I'm recording. Can you be quiet, please? But I was so busy focusing on the loneliness that I actually shared it. And then someone else started noticing it too. And then all of a sudden they started feeling lonely. And then what happened is someone actually reached out to connect with them. And then what happened was all the notes that were sent, because I think it was on text. I don't think it was on email. They were all interpreted in a way that person felt like they were getting interrogated. And I started this. I felt terrible. And it was through watching this and realizing, oh my gosh, because of my perception of loneliness, I'm spreading this to other people around me, and that is just not cool. So, how did I find connection? Well, I started letting others know that I was feeling lonely. And instead of avoiding asking for help, I started asking for help. So how did I know I was starting to find connection? Well, I had recognized it, and because I recognized it, then I was able to reach out and find that connection. So the starting was recognizing. The next step was reaching out and saying, hey, I actually need help, instead of suffering through. Because I think in some ways, I still, even without my braces, expect people to know how I need help sometimes. And that's not true. Why was it important for me to feel connected to my friends and the group that I was in? Well, I think it was important because, well, on a social level, like it's a psychological need. We need to feel connected. It's actually built into our brains and how we are made. And so I knew that I needed to go out and find that connection to help relieve some of that pain I was feeling. And the change to stepping out of my comfort zone, so from moving into finding that connection, was so important. And I knew that, and yet it still took a tremendous amount of courage. Moving from loneliness to connection, scary stuff, right? Like, I'm in a connection challenge right now, and there's some people, I've had some experiences where people aren't ready to reach out, and it is terribly scary. So if you're wondering, like, how do I get from loneliness to connection? With courage. In fact, the other day I was talking to someone, and I can't remember. I wish I could remember who it was, but we were talking to someone. We were talking. One of the things that we were talking about was that we think people don't know, like, these worst, like, what we're gonna find something out about ourselves that we didn't know before. And it's, when we go on like these soul searching journeys or whatever, and the reality of it is the people around us know us better sometimes than we know ourselves. And so and sometimes they don't, right? But sometimes it's like I've got to be open to that feedback. So I don't remember where that was going, except that I was talking about connection and being willing to find that courage and knowing that it's in you. You've got it. If you've got loneliness, which is part of the human experience, then you've also got courage. But what does it feel like? And you've also got connection. And what does that mean to you? Like, those are important things to understand. So what's one thing that you did to find connection when you were navigating loneliness? I asked for help. I reached out when it was super uncomfortable. And I also gave myself room to have those feelings. It's almost like when shifting from loneliness to connection, it can feel like touching a hot plate, if you will. So it's like, reach out, and then it's like, oh, that was vulnerable, back off, right? Like, this is how I did it, was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I think that that's okay, right? Like, the next question is, what effort or time did you put into shifting from lonely to connection? I would say a tremendous amount of time, if we're looking over the period of my entire life. I don't know how much time per se, but every time, well, I could say this, every time I reach out to connect, it takes courage and it takes bravery. And there are some people where it's like, oh, yes, I'm calling that person when I'm super excited. Like, that connection, from lonely to connection is such a big, that step. It's many steps. It's like walking across a bridge with slats in it that like you can see the crevice below or the river way, way down below. And, with each step you're getting closer or you're making more connections. And yet it's still scary. So every step on that bridge gets you closer to that connection. And what did I do to overcome the loneliness and find connection? I think it was continuing on with that courage and staying determined. Like, that takes so much determination to move from loneliness to connection, especially when I believe I don't have value, right? So if that's something you struggle with, it's going to be hard. And it's going to be fantastic, and there are going to be some huge, fantastical surprises along the way that you would not have otherwise expected. What inspired me to take these steps to find connection? I think it was wanting more. I think maybe there's that human part of me that knew, or that biological part of me even, that knew that connection is important, you know? Like, I'm inspired to keep moving forward because I know it's available. I know that, you know? Even my social media is like, guys, I set up a new social media one time and I was astonished at the type of information I got on my feed. I was like, what is this? I have never seen any of this. And I realized that I had carefully set up my feed for the things I wanted and not the things I didn't want. So that could be another skill or something to use. So what does it say about you that you can find connection when feeling lonely? I think it says I'm determined, and I am pretty darn certain we're all made from the same stuff and that connection is possible. So I think it's determined. I'm going to use the word determined because determined means I will keep going in the face of adversity. I will be tenacious. And how do I know it's determination and tenacity? I think because that's just what and courage. Like, dude, loneliness is hell. And that's the only way you can get out, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it says, I am somebody who there's a great saying. Where is it? Why is it not coming to me? Someone to be reckoned with. If I can come out of loneliness and find connection, wow, that's fantastic. To have that skill, I know you've got it in you too, and I want to know how you do it, you know? But like, when you do it, like, what does it say about you when you do it? If it says I'm courageous and determined and tenacious, what does it say about you? And what do you see to know you're making a connection? And how has that worked inside of you? The next question for me is, what signs will you look for in the future when you're feeling lonely so that you can start looking for connection? I think I will start looking for signs that I'm starting to withdraw. And that I am not wanting to talk to people. And the skills I will use is that determination and that tenacity and that courage to find my way back from loneliness to connection. And so what that means, because the next question is, what does that mean you can do in the future? In the future, that means I know that when those feelings of loneliness come up, that I can make it through and I can move from loneliness to courage by using my loneliness to connection by using my courage, determination, and tenacity. Comment below, tell me, what are you using to find connection when you're feeling lonely? I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself. See you tomorrow.